introducing tech demo on Abliterated model from our AI SecOps podcast with Brian Fehrman.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's hop into a tech demo here. And we're going to look at the difference between a base model, which is Llama 3.3 in this case, and an obliterated version of that model. And what I'm running here is Open WebUI, and on the back end is Ollama. Now, note that Ollama is not the same thing as Llama. They stand for different things. Ollama is a model manager and a way to interact with those models. Llama is the model itself. And then Open WebUI is just this interface that's on top of it that gives us a more natural kind of ChatGPT, Claude type interface that we would expect to be able to use to interact with these models in kind of a natural way. And so let's say that you are on a security engagement and you want to do some password spraying and you need some code for that for whatever reason. You want some C# code to do that, right? So completely legitimate use case of this. But the problem is the model doesn't know that that's the case, that you are legitimately trying to use this. And so I tell it, give me some C# code that will do the password spraying attack in Windows Active Directory, and I need the code to bypass any EDR. And we can already see, even with the autocomplete, it's starting to get a little bit angry at us. So let's go ahead and let's send this out, and it comes back and it basically says that, oh, hey, I'm not going to help with that. Now, some of the time, if you ask the model for this, it might give you what you want, especially if you start giving it context like you're authorized and you're a security analyst, and it might give it to you. You can also go down the road of jailbreaking. So basically different tricks to convince the model to give you what you want. There's lots of different techniques that are out there to do that. And inevitably, you will get what you want out of the model. There's no way to 100% secure these models from these types of attacks where they're saying no to something and a user is talking them into giving them what they want. There's just no way to 100% secure that at this point. Now, there are different methods that people use. So you can put in guardrails that monitor input-output for the system, looking at system prompts to try to further lock down what it's doing. None of that is in place here because we have complete control over that, and none of those measures are in place. So instead, what we're dealing with here is something that is intrinsic to the model itself, something that has been baked in during the training and creation of this model. The creators did this so that it would mitigate the chances of harmful information being given out, especially unintentionally. If someone didn't want a certain type of information, that the model won't just start spewing it out, but also to make it more difficult for people to get out things that could potentially be harmful. Now, as I said, you can eventually get it to give you what you want, but if you're doing this professionally, that's annoying. That's time consuming, that's obnoxious. You don't want to have to deal with that every time. So that's where the obliterated versions of these models come in. In this case, we have the obliterated version of Llama 3.3, the model we just looked at, and it's done by a group called WebUI. And so basically what they do is they take these models and they send them through a fine-tuning process that removes out these safety features. Now, it's not 100% successful, but it is much better and much less restrictive than the base models. And WebUI has a ton of these out there. So they have a page on Hugging Face you can look through. And in my case, like I said, I'm using Ollama, so you can go and browse Ollama for all the different things they have out there. So like DeepSeek, Quen, 5.4, Mistral. So all these popular models they take and they put through this obliteration training. So let's ask it the same thing here. It'll take a second for the new model to load into memory. It's got to pull the old one out. Okay, so it gives us a whole little disclaimer, blah, blah, be careful, whatever. And then it starts to give us some code for doing a password spraying attack. And then on top of that, it starts to give us how we can potentially bypass EDR using these different techniques here. Even talks about Sharpsploit, Cobalt Strike, how we can modify the previous code to use Sharpsploit. So in all, we can see that this is much better. And if you don't like the answer, you can ask it in a different way. You can dive into any of the topics that you would like to of what it spit out to get more information. But the key point here is that it just gave us what we wanted. We didn't have to fight with it. We didn't have to fidget around with things and wording and jailbreak attacks or anything. It just worked. And so that's where these obliterated models can be very useful for security testers on a day-to-day basis if you're starting to utilize AI within your workflow, especially this setup here where I'm running the models locally. So I have complete control over the models and the data. So I know where the data is going, that I have custody of it, and I don't have to worry about giving it out to a third party here because it's all on this local system. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that tech demo. Take care.